Plus registered voters in Hinds County have to be verified. We have to go into each individual record, verify the birth date, acquire their driver's license and social security numbers, which is a tumultuous job. I come before you today to ask if we could have permission to temporarily hire five extra workers to assist in this task. Otherwise, I don't think that it'll get done before June.
Okay. Let me ask a couple of quick questions. Number one, what will happen if it doesn't get done? What are the consequences? And next of all, if an individual does not or doesn't have a current valid driver's license, will that person automatically be excluded, or will they be allowed to update their license, or just are there policies and rules as it relates to how that works?
Yeah, the Secretary of State's office is in the process of putting together a team to go to all the counties and explain all of that. It's my understanding in what I have read that if somebody doesn't have voter ID, they will have to go to affidavit at the precinct. And they have 5 days in order to bring in ID in order for that to count. The circuit clerk's offices around the state are being sent this month in December cameras and so forth to take pictures of people that do not have valid IDs. So they would have a county-issued ID. So there's my understanding that about 2% of the registered voters across the state do not have some form of government-issued ID. So there are provisions that are being put into place for that.
So a person will be able to go to the election commission and get a photo ID that will allow them to vote at the precinct?
The circuit clerk's office.
Circuit clerk's office?
Right.
Okay, Supervisor Calhoun?
Yes, will the cost be provided by the HAP funds, or you're asking for more supervisors to use your?
For the extra help, it's in our budget.
Well, I knew that we allow the election commission to hire 5 additional people, just as it is important that our voting process has integrity. It is also just as important that our voters go to the polls and be able to do so in voting meetings.
Okay. It's been moved and properly second discussion. Supervisor Stokes?
Thank you, Mr. President. Has Liga been involved at all in this process?
No, sir.
Could we get Liga involved to make sure that all the I's and dotted and T's are crossed?
Yes, sir. We'll work with Ms. Cochran and the election commission.
And I guess my question is, Liga, also, could you come up, in terms of June election, vote ID is required. Now, we hear Ms. Cochran saying that they have to go through and check all of the registered voters. Is that a mandate from the law? If they're going to check all the voters' IDs and those kind of things, then why do they have IDs when they go to vote?
I think you're asking a very good question, Supervisor Stokes. This is not an area that we have looked at. As I stated a moment ago, we would be more than happy to work with Ms. Cochran and the Secretary of State's office to find out what exactly the directives are, what the county needs to do, what the election commission needs to do, so that we're ready to comply.
Can we get an update maybe at the next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
May I explain something, sir?
Okay.
There's nothing in the law, to my knowledge, that states that every voter has to be looked at. We are simply doing this to be prepared for voter ID. So we have, when somebody walks in to the voting precinct and hands you a driver's license or firearms license or whatever, that we have all the information in our system that would match what they would hand us via the driver's license, so it can be verified.
This is what I'm saying, Ms. Carter. If they have to show ID at the precincts when they go to vote, and now you having them to show ID before they even go to the precincts and vote.
No, we're not doing that.
Well, we hired 5 people to do what?
To go into the voter records, into SIM, Statewide Election Management System, to verify that we have the latest information, be it birth date, driver's license, Social Security. And we go through the Department of Public Safety, we log into that to verify this information. We're not having anybody come into the office, it's just a computer exercise.
But it's not necessary for what you stated earlier. It's not required by law, is it?
Not to my knowledge, no.
All right.
But it's required for us to have
That's
as much
fine.
information as we can.
That's fine, but I want to make sure that we do everything required by law. And I don't want to have a single citizen who's out here getting ready to vote to have any kind of fear. Now, if these people we're gonna hire gonna verify something, that's okay. But I want to have it done when June comes, people know what they got to have, what's acceptable ID and everything else. All these other things can become scary to people who think you want to put them in jail. Thank you, Mr. President.
The Secretary of State's office, I feel sure, by the time June rolls around, will have publicized and done everything necessary for people to be aware.
Any other questions or statements from the board? It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Aye.
Opposed to?
No.
Motion passes. Okay, thank you very much. We notice that we have Commissioner Rhodes and Commissioner Reed here. Do you have additional issues or separate issues?
Not at this time.
Okay, Dr. Rhodes?
No, we are just in support and wanted to make sure that we have done all that's necessary within the law, Supervisor Stokes, and to the other members of the staff, the cadre of supervisors. Because we're not trying to do anything that would frighten the election.
Okay.
It's our responsibility to make sure that the data are updated and there will be no, let's say, foreseen problems.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Rhodes.
Mr. President,
Mr. Stokes?
to Dr. Rose, I understand what you're saying. It
Yes, sir.
sounds good, but you live in an inner city neighborhood,
Oh,
and you understand what I'm saying.
I'm in the hood.
It's one thing to say that it's not gonna frighten people or cause any concern, but reality is, you know and I know, some of our cops people gonna have concern.
Oh, yes, indeed, on Jones.
Okay,
where I live.
Dr. Rhodes, if you
Thank you,
would,
Mr. President.
okay, if you want to make any more comments, come to the podium so where we can make sure we get it on the record.
I just want to respond to my supervisor today.
Okay. We're streaming live on the internet. We want to make sure that it all gets on the record. People know who's talking out in the audience.
Thank you, Mr. President. And to my supervisor, Mr. Stokes, we are about the business of making sure that our constituents are informed as much as possible. You alluded to where I live, and I appreciate that. I was born and reared here in Jackson. Only went out of state to school, but my point is, I know the mentality of my constituents, and I do all that I can, and pardon me for being personal, to make sure that they are, for the most part, apprised of what's going on. And I know that they will be, it is my opinion, that they may be frightened, when asked for a voter ID. We're not responsible for that law. We're just supposed to execute it.
Okay.
So we're doing what we can. Are there any other questions?
Mr. President, I just want to make sure the record was clear that when we hear people saying there's not going to be any fear, that's not considered a true statement. Now, I understand the law, but at the same time, it's already hard to get some people to vote. And then when you start talking about ID, then you're talking about people who think that you want to get ID to run background checks and everything else, end up going to jail. You have people when you're trying to help them rebuild their homes and they have to show their deed, they won't show their deed because they think it's a trick out here. Now, I understand we got a law, we have to follow the law, but I'm saying the county should do anything to make any citizen feel uncomfortable, period. Thank you.
Okay.
And Mr. President, you know that, and my supervisor does too, I live in Washington Edition. I have for more than so many decades. I want to be specific, but this is not the forum to be specific. But I know the mentality. I've lived there, I've worked there. I could have gone and stayed other places, but my focus was to come back to Washington Edition and to help them. So I'm in the posture of helping Mr. Supervisor Stokes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rose.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll continue with our printed agenda. We now see that the tax collector, Ms. Eddie Bear, is here. Mr. Perry, you have a report for us? Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the board, and our new supervisors, Mr. Gregg and Mr. Quake. It's an honor to be here this morning. During the month of November, we collected $40,809.49.
With our personal property taxes for the collection of November, the current year that was just 1 year delinquent, 30,000 of it, $30,910.74 was for 2012. The years 2007, which are the years that we continue to go back on because there were lots of delinquent taxes, we collected $9,898.75. Year to date, we're at $834,442 in collections. From the certified letters that we told you that we sent out on last month, there were 23 of them sent out, 5 accounts were paid in full. Because of the 20-day certified letters that were sent out last month, the 18 accounts that were not collected on, we'll be doing judgments against those in the month of December. And we still have 138 accounts remaining to collect on.
Okay. Questions from the board?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Supervisor Stokes?
Good job, Mr. Tax Collector. For year to date, we have 834,000. It's close to $1 million. Now, is that year to date from what period to when? Is that just the current year? Is it going back 2 years, 3 years?
That's any delinquent personal property taxes that has been collected from October last year.
October last year, sir, to now. You got almost $1 million. Good job. Now, let me ask this, because sometimes people say about money, they start saying it's going to other accounts. Ms. Woods, is that money going to the general fund?
All of it probably is not just going to the general fund, it's going to all across the villages that it has to go to.
How much to the general fund?
We would have to pull that exactly.
Right, we don't know how much it'll be because it has to be broken down.
And we will be starting from October 1 this fiscal year. You know, we've already closed the last fiscal year, so we started what's collected October 1 this fiscal year.
Okay.
We can show what was settled.
Finally, in terms of the contact, what's the update on that?
We just brought the person in this morning. They'll be starting. We have to look long and hard to find the person, but this person, Ms. Stokes, you know, Ms. Calhoun, and Mr. Brown, I think Mr. McQuaid know too. She is an ordained minister, first and foremost. She is a reporter, and she has a PhD. So
Did you collect some money?
well, as a reporter, I like to think that she can get out there and meet the public and do all that. And that's why we're sending the person out now to bring her in. But she just got started this morning. We think she's going to be a great asset to the tax collector's office and doing it. I don't think she's afraid to go out there. I think she's big enough to protect herself.
In terms of transportation?
In terms of transportation, we do not have transportation at this point. I have talked to the county administrator. She said she's going to try to do something for us. I'm not sure where we're at this point.
Okay. Supervisor McQuaid.
Thank you. President Graham, also to Mr. Fair. Good job. Please help me connect some dots here. The monies that are collected here, does that represent, I think about a year ago you requested 2 people to assist in collecting outstanding taxes, or is that just car tax? Are those 2 separate things or the same project?
A year ago, we requested 1 person. We asked for 2, but they only gave us 1. So you're correct, we did ask for 2.
You requested 2.
Right.
But is this the same, all these tied together, or is this 2 separate things that you've given a report?
What we're giving a report on is 1 person.
But the collections is tied to that same project, correct?
Exactly.
And you've got 138 accounts remaining to collect on. What projected amount is that as far as taxes? Do you have any idea?
Started out with 7,000 accounts as far as personal property. And we're down to 138 as far as 2012 that still have delinquent taxes. And as far as the new taxes coming out, those all start for the month of December, so we're about to start rolling into 2013. But the problem was, I think, with some accounts that had taxes, they paid 2,000, didn't pay 2001, 2, and 3. Then they paid 4, 5, and 6, and then paid 7, 8. Now it's somebody in place to go back and actually look over the accounts for the last 7 years and say, oh, well, you didn't pay this, this, and this. And so when 2012 warrants are served, you also have your bills for the other years that weren't paid.
Okay, so you're down from 7,000 to 138. Good job.
Okay. Additional questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Fair. We appreciate that report. Thank you.
President, before we leave,
Mr. Stokes?
before they leave, could we get the county administrator a report on the automobile?
Yes.
Excuse me, so we can.
Yes, when me and Mr. Fair spoke, I mentioned that once he hired the person who will provide a vehicle, we were going to take a vehicle from the carpool. So now that I'm aware of it, we will work it out today.
So that means this person will start tonight, because he said they might work tonight.
We got to get them trained first. We don't want to throw them out to the wolves, so we got to get them trained.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fair. We'll continue with our agenda. We'll now go to the approval of minutes. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So, tax bill, assessor, Mr. Stokes.
Good morning, Mr. President, Vice President, board members. I thought maybe this was already fixed. I came back and told you I wanted to come, but then I got information that I need to come back before the board to ask the board for the telephone upgrade that we need, and that's the information that I passed out to you. I was informed that it was already in the budget, but it was not. So I'm coming back before the board to ask the board for an upgrade on the telephones in the assessor's office. We have, and I reported to the board during budget hearings, we have 2 people in the office that actually is sharing phones. And I have 1 person without a phone. Our phone system are old, they antiquated, and the thing is we can't even have conference calls. The conference calls that we have, we do them on our personal cell phones. And the tax bill statements have been mailed out, are going to be mailed out the first week of this month and the second week. And our phones are going to jump off the hook if they ring, if we can get them transferred. So it's been an ongoing problem, and we've been putting Band-Aids on this problem. Always calling Mr. Ray Bryan to come down and try to do something. Now, one problem that we did find out in all of this, you have a certain phone that's connected with a certain line. We cannot even switch our phones. You can't buy the phone. The phones now is in the point to where they don't make them anymore, if I'm not mistaken. And we're just kind of handicapped right now. So I'm coming back before the board to ask the board to give us an upgrade on our telephone system.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
So, Mr. President.
It's been moved.
Second.
It's been properly second. Mrs. Carr?
If you recall, also the Chancery Clerk's office has been asking, because we've got, I think everybody in this building has the new upgrade except the tax assessor's office and the Chancery Clerk. So we also would like to be put in that pool.
Okay,
This is our request too.
Let me make that a separate motion from this. You are referring to the IP phones?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's been moved and properly second. Any additional question? Okay, all those in favor of?
Yeah. I'm going to hold that.
Okay, Peter?
I've got some concerns about you voting to spend money and you don't know how much you're spending. I think the motion, you got a proposal?
Well, I do, but I don't know
Okay.
about, what, that's just for my office. I don't know about what this is called. Let Ray Bryan come up here.
Let me say this, I think it would be better practice if the motion says you would move to support that and expend an amount not to exceed X, whatever X is. So
Okay.
that's in the minutes.
All right,
So it's
what
not-
we'll do is, we'll do it this particular way. If the person, we'll just amend the motion to state that we will spend up to $21,000 for the upgrade of the phone system, the tax assessor's office. Is that better suited, Peter?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and if everyone will stick with their same motion, then, Ms. Kellum?
I was just gonna say 21,000.
Yeah, 21,000, so,
We have cost estimates here.
yeah, if that's the same with everyone else, then, okay, go ahead. We have two people.
Part of the estimate shows a monthly cost, so that's like additional $8,400 there. We have to be budgeted for the monthly cost.
The number 5 AT&T circuit
That's a
cost.
monthly cost. That's not calculated as one time.
Right, I see. So in other words, it would be a monthly cost that's a recurring cost.
Right.
Okay. How does the Budget and Finance Office wish to deal with that, or we need to do this with a motion to exclude that amount? Ms. Davis?
If I may, I do appreciate Mr. Stokes and his request, but we were assessing the full building, and Mr. Bryant did assess upgrading the full building as a total project. We can entertain that. Unfortunately, I was not prepared with this issue, but I think we should look at the building overall. Mr. Bryant can give you a report on his review of upgrading the whole building, and maybe we need to take it as a whole, seeing we have other issues related.
I think Mr. Fair has the same issue, and we're also looking at internet, wireless internet as well. Okay. What's the pleasure of the board? Mr. Bryant, would you speak to this, please?
Yes, sir. We did an evaluation of the whole building, about $120,000. The lines are already there. We don't have to do the running of the lines. All we have to do is provide the equipment, the phones, the switches. But the other thing is the PRI that takes the phone numbers from AT&T to bring into our call manager. And that's what's about $600 per month.
So in other words, would it be cheaper for us to just go ahead and do the entire building, since we're looking at the tax collector and the tax assessor as well as the chancery clerk, and just go ahead and get it done?
You got purchasing, you got finance department, and those departments too, that we included.
How long would this delay this process if we were able to do this, or I'm pretty sure as it relates to the tax assessor, time is of the essence?
We can do it, I don't want to say piece by piece, but we could do it by department. Take his and then this cars and then go there, because we have to have the phones programmed. So we have to bring in, that's included, VCI to come in and program the phones.
Okay. So Mrs. Davis, is it your request that we hold this particular item until we get, or review Mr. Bryant, until we get a total amount as to how much this is going to cost, since we have to do the entire building? Or is it where time is so much of the essence, Mr. Stokes, that we need to get it done immediately?
I need mine immediately. I mean, because, like I stated, the tax statements went out and.
Well, I think it can be done easily if it's a part of a bigger project.
Right.
But, you know, we just need to make sure we have the project in line as far as what we're trying to do. Supervisor Calhoun.
I would think that our AT&T representative would be amenable to working with us, knowing that we are considering looking at the whole rather than individual departments. So I think they would work with us and negotiate. If we, you know, we are allowed to negotiate with them, letting them know that we will be presenting a complete package of all of those departments.
Okay. Peter?
Let me make a suggestion. I would suggest that you defer this matter until the next meeting. I understand the pressing need for Mr. Stokes. My concern is that there are a couple of ideas that are being tossed around here this morning, and none of them have enough specificity, certainly with respect to a dollar amount, that I'm comfortable recommending that you should vote on them. I think that any time a proposal comes like this, it needs to be vetted in a specific motion. That motion needs to say exactly what we're doing and the amount of money that we're spending, or not to exceed the amount of money. I think, based on what I'm hearing from Mr. Bryant and Ms. Davis, they can be prepared to bring this back at the next meeting in 2 weeks, and that would be my recommendation. I don't want to see this as a long delay, Mr. Stokes, I understand your situation, but I have likewise concerns that we make sure we detail the expenditures and the actions of the board appropriately in the minutes.
Okay, Ms. Calhoun and Mr. Greer, since you made the motion second, we'll table this issue unless you have some other concerns with it. Is that agreeable with the board? Okay, it's agreeable with the board that we will, Supervisor Stokes.
Mr. President, I thought we had some in the budget dealing with the phones and the phone service, and somewhere down the line maybe got removed, but I know some in the budget was through the process.
Yes, it was discussed in the process. We knew the project was needed, but it was packaged with our full capital needs. And so
It's part of the capital need?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I know it was in the budget.
Yes, so we did plan on carrying out this project.
Okay. All right, so we will table this issue until the next board meeting. Mr. Stokes, we appreciate it, and if you can just provide information to the county administrator and legal office, as well as Mr. Bryant, to make sure that we have all the information that we need for the next board meeting. Mrs. Calhoun?
Thank you.
Mr. Stokes, are you willing to withdraw your motion?
I thought you made the motion and Mr. Greer made the second.
Well, Mr. Supervisor Greer,
No. Yeah. Okay, everything's
What do
okay.
you have on for the record?
You make the motion.
I'll withdraw my
Okay.
motion.
Thank you.
All right.
and I'll withdraw my second.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We'll continue with the printed agenda, noticing no other elected officials. Am I missing anyone?
I think the tax collector is going to introduce his
Okay.
person.
Mr. Bayer?
My person, Mr. President, that I was talking about is Brother Willis. Now the catcher with Ms. Willis is she has a twin.
Yeah.
And I told her the problem, I was going to send through the tax collector training because I didn't want my sister coming from that trip me one day and I didn't see the person. But this is Ms. Brenda Willis, and I thank Ms. Calhoun for all of the notes.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Fair. Really appreciate it. Welcome. Okay. All right. We will continue. We'll now go to the approval of minutes. Supervisor Greer?
I believe that I have a correction on the one item that I had regarding the transfer of money from the bond fund transfer.
Okay.
The amount should be $3,053,000 total, and the amount to the back to the Parkway project is $2,053,000. And the amount to the detention center is not $91,000, but $1 million.
We will make that correction.
Okay.
President, I just don't have, mine moved to claims, we don't have 2 more minutes.
It was left off.
Yes.
It is a regular meeting though, and other business can be held.
Okay,
so
Yeah.
this minute.
Okay.
We will request that you do it under other business this morning since it's not on the agenda. We request approval of the minutes of November 18, 2013, including the correction from Supervisor Greer and pending receipt of executive session.
What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of? Opposed to?
No.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Moving on to claims this morning. The Chancery Clerk's office last week sent you your claims for today. The first item in that packet is a schedule of an interfund advance to be repaid. This is repaid to the General County Fund from Catalog of Federal Domestic Assistance Grant number 97.067, which is your Homeland Security grants. And this repayment is in the amount of $80,000.
What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. The next item is an interfund transfer. This is a transfer to the Road Maintenance and Construction Fund from the Series 2007A Tax Exempt GO Bond Fund in the amount of $25,000, and this is for the resurfacing of John F. Kennedy Phase 1 as done by the Public Works Department and in accordance with the request approved during Supervisor Hunter's term.
What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? I'll second it. It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Aye.
Opposed to?
No.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. The next item is also on a schedule of an interfund transfer, again to the Road Maintenance and Construction Fund, and again from the Series 2007A Tax Exempt GO Bond Fund. This is in the amount of $16,000, and again, this was a request under Supervisor Hunter's term, and this is for the resurfacing of the parking lot and walking trail for the town of Edwards.
What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. We have one additional interfund transfer that was not on your items from last week, and this is a transfer to the General County Fund from the E911 Fund. It is in the amount of $4,155.95, and this is the monies received for your video servicing franchise fees. These were received in fiscal year 2013 and inadvertently just put in with the 911 funds because they came from Bell South, and evidently we weren't cognizant that those were the video service franchise fees. So we'll pay a little bit more attention to make sure that those get put into the general fund, but we would like to transfer that money at this time.
What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of the question from Supervisor Stokes?
Thank you. A mistake was made. These funds were put in the wrong category.
In the wrong fund, yes.
So now we're trying to put in the general fund.
Correct, where they belong.
And these are E911 funds.
They are not E911 funds. This is for the video servicing, the UVerse, the AT&T UVerse. Your franchising fees for cable.
They were not in
Services.
that one fund, we put them in the wrong one.
All right,
It
we
should
just
not
had
go.
the auditors here looking at E911 funds, right?
Yes.
Did they find this?
No, this was found, Mr. Bryant asked about these and was able to give us the exact amount that AT&T said that they settled, so we were able to go back and locate those based on his request.
Can we get a report of what the auditors were looking at sometime today?
I have no, you'll have to get with the auditor's office for that report, I'm assuming.
Well, somebody had to give, they didn't talk to the board supervisor, they talked to some other people, somebody had to give us some kind of report.
They came in and said they would get to audit.
Did legal, were y'all involved?
No, sir, we were aware that that matter was handled by the county administrator and the county's budget person. There was no reason for us to be involved.
Do we know what they got? Can we get a copy of what they got?
We do plan on providing information of what they requested. They have not completed their review. They came one day and they said they'll come back this week because last week was a holiday week.
Can we get a copy of what they give our records? And legal, could y'all get a copy for y'all records to make sure we don't talk about all this? This is the kind of stuff come back and bite you.
Well, I know they've been working very closely with the Chancery Clerk's office, so they may
Chancellor,
have
we get a
better
copy of what
information
we
as
get?
to what.
We don't have, well, we get something, Supervisor Stokes, we would gladly disseminate it. We don't have anything on that. That we were just told for this, and that, and that's
I
what.
just want to make sure we're on the same page of this meeting because I don't want something to come up, I don't have a copy of what's going on.
Yes, sir.
I don't know about the other supervisors, they can fend for themselves, but Kenny Stowe won't copy everything everybody else gets.
Yes, sir.
Well,
We will comply, Supervisor
Thank you.
Stokes. We just don't have anything to give right now.
Okay.
I can assure you, whatever we get, all of you all will get.
I just want to make sure I get it.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes things drop. Thank you.
When you have my word, Supervisor Stokes, I will personally give you your copy. I'll put it in Ms. Manning's hand.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
All those in favor of? Opposed to?
No.
Motion passes. Continue, please.
Thank you very much. We have one special claim this morning. It is to Zurich, North America. It is in the amount of $24,737.33. This is for your property insurance.
It's a pleasure of the board.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly
Question,
seconded.
President.
Question from Supervisor Stokes.
Is this the one they gave us late, Miss Davis? We got a memo, something related, this insurance.
I'm sorry, I missed it.
Yes, that is what this is. This is the one where they had the cancellation notice of December 1st. But I believe your agent of record for this policy has stated that until he acts, that cancellation will not go into effect. And since we had stated that this would be approved today and the check would go out this week, he will not do that cancellation.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. We have one claim remaining from the November 18 docket that was not approved, and that is claim number 784 to Airwave Consultant Company in the amount of $67,075.71. And we present that for your approval.
What's the pleasure of the board? It's been moved. Is there a second? I'll second it. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to?
No. No.
Motion fails.
Question, Mr. President.
Questions from Supervisor Stokes?
If we're not gonna pay vendors, legally, you need to give us some direction, because I know there's contracts. And, you know, we're obligated, I thought, to pay vendors whether we like them or not. Can you give us some idea? Do they stop work? You know, what happens now if you're not gonna pay? You can't keep having people doing work and they're not getting paid and expect them to work, especially when they have a contract. That's why people have contracts.
Ms. Stokes, I don't want to speak for the vendor as to whether they're going to stop work. That's a decision they have to make as to whether they're going to stop work or not. With respect to the county, we will advise the county, the board, in writing this week as to what the obligations are with respect to valid contracts and whether, what the effects are if they're not paid.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Credit continue.
Thank you very much. We request that you void claim numbers 816 through 819. These were not issued.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the
We
board?
actually need your a motion on that.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second.
Question, Mr. President.
Question from Supervisor Stokes.
When you said they were not issued,
Keelan and I looked and looked and looked and could not figure out why the system actually jumped those numbers. The claim number is handled by the computer system. We don't actually tell it what claim number to put in, but somehow it jumped from 815 to 820. So 816 through 819 were just not issued. Because your statute requires that your claim numbers be approved in order, like number 1 through number whatever, these actually just have to be voided so that we have on the record that you didn't just skip those numbers even though the system did. So there isn't any claim out there for these numbers, but we do need the numbers handled in your minutes.
thank you.
Okay. All in favor of?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. We have a few claims of interest to the board this morning. The first of those is claim number 1009. It is to Prince and Associates PLLC. It is in the amount of $4,655.80, and this is for, hold on a moment, services to the board attorney's office from October 25th through November 18th.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. The next one is claim number 1087 to North Star Wireless. It is in the amount of, for some reason, I'm missing something. Give me 1 moment.
You don't have it.
I don't have that sheet for some reason.
It's $694.98.
It is for $8,694.98, and this is for purchase order number 6169 for E911.
What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? I'll second it. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to?
Nay.
Motion passes. Okay, continue, please.
Thank you very much. That is your claims of interest this morning. There were some legal bills, but they were on that separate sheet for you this morning. Your claims over $100,000. The first of those is claim number 843. This is to United Healthcare, JP Morgan Chase, in the amount of $565,120.42. This is health insurance for employees and retirees.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Move.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor? Question from Supervisor Stokes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes, sir.
if I come close by the hip, please stop me. The employee we have currently that left, who had health issues, my concern was that I thought he should have stayed on board to make sure he had some health insurance. Normally, if we have an employee who become ill, do we encourage them to leave? How would the insurance work? If they become ill on the job, can't come to work for a while, do we still cover them? How does that work? Could you explain it, please?
If they are on leave, they're covered by their
If they lose, they
time off
leave.
and sick.
If they lose, they leave because they're sick for a long period of time.
They do run a risk if they're paying for their insurance.
Or they have to pay for it.
They have to pay for their employee portion of their insurance.
Okay.
So you should be able to pay that. If they don't have the leave, they have to pay the full amount. I know Mrs. Parker probably can give us a better
And the reason I ask members of this body, because anybody can get sick at any time. And you know, you can be healthy today and tomorrow you can be sick. They say you well today, you're sick enough to die. So I want to make sure that we stand behind these employees if they get sick.
Oh, yes, that person made that person's
I know,
decision.
I asked them. But I just want the employees to know that we're going to stand behind them.
Oh,
We
yeah.
need to let them know how this insurance thing works if they
Oh,
get sick.
certainly.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. The remaining claims over $100,000 this morning are claim numbers 822 to Waste Pro Jackson in the amount of $181,589.63. Claim number 940 is to the Mississippi State Treasurer in the amount of $111,519.25. That is their tax settlement for various fees collected in the courts. Claim number 948 is to AT&T in the amount of $129,153.63. That is for E911. Claim number 1070 is to the City of Jackson for $163,905.98. That is for payment to outside correctional facilities for Hinds County inmates. And claim number 1102 is to White Construction Company in the amount of $365,932.09 for Pod C design and reconstruction.
What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of? Opposed to?
No.
Motion passes.
The last item in your packet were your grant claims. They do appear to be in order this morning. Your claim numbers are 820 through 1,112. Less claim numbers 822, 843, 940, 948, 1020, and 1102. We will present the remaining claims for your approval.
What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second? I'll second it. It's been moved and properly seconded. So a question from Supervisor McQuarrie.
Now, these are all of the remaining claims or just?
All of the remaining claims, yes, sir.
Less the ones that you voted on already.
And I may have already let this slip past. How do I accuse myself from a specific claim? Payroll type claim?
Do you know which one it is? Is it something for permit and zoning?
No. It's going to be under the Henry Young court system payroll, right?
Payroll, not actual claim. Do
I
you
don't
know?
have the company number.
It should be an invoice.
So we haven't got to that point.
Under 226? Do we know who that is to?
And Keisha Watkins, New York.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. Hold on one moment. Then let's turn around and if you don't mind, can you withdraw your motions and seconds, and we will take claim number 998 separately so that Mr. McWhorter can recuse himself.
Okay.
Can we have the motion and the second withdrawn?
All right, who made the motion?
Mr. Greer.
Okay, is that withdrawn, and the motion?
You made the second, you made the motion.
All right, I'll withdraw it.
Okay. Then, we need to take claim number 998 to Watkins Nikisha McWhorter.
Okay? No, I don't think you have to step out on it.
He doesn't, yeah, he could just be recused.
Yeah, just recuse yourself from that. All those in favor, aye?
Yeah, I need a motion.
So moved.
It's been moved, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second, all those in favor of? Opposed to?
No.
Motion passes. Okay?
Thank you very much. Hold on a minute, 998. Now, we will have claim numbers 820 through 1,112, plus claim numbers 822, 843, 940, 948, 998, 1020, and 1102. We present the remaining claims for your approval.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board? It's been moved, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second, all those in favor of? Opposed to?
No.
Motion passes.
We have the order approving the claims portion of the minutes for today, December 2nd, 2013, for your approval.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
It's been moved and properly second, all those in favor of? Opposed to?
No.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. And in the future, Mr. Porter will separate that one out.
Okay. Continue with our printed agenda. We have a request from an individual that went to Mrs. Davis that would like to present a presentation to the board, Mr. Thomas Cheatham. Mr. Cheatham, if you would you come to the podium, please? Once we finish this, we'll go back to our regular printed agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning.
Good morning.
Members of the Board of Supervisors. Good morning to all of you all here. My name is Thomas Cheatham, Jr. I'm the president of Boys Baseball Association Incorporated here in Jackson. I'm here to thank the Board of Supervisors for the generous donation that they give to our corporation. It's reading. Thank you for your generous donation to the Boys Baseball Association Incorporation. We are forever grateful for each of you. The donation will enhance the baseball program at Grove Park. Respectful Senator Thomas Cheatham, President of Boys Baseball Association. This program here is in North Jackson, which as of last year we had the number of 500 and something, 500 plus girls and boys of our association. The donation that was given to us will enhance our program very, very much. And I'd like to say thank you to the Board of Supervisors for what you've done for us.
You're welcome, Mr. Cheatham. Supervisor Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I look at Mr. Cheatham, I keep smiling because people like Mr. Cheatham who kept me out of trouble as a young boy when Grove Park and field used to be where the community center is now. And a lot of people, good people like Mr. Lee, who owned Big Apple Inn, and Mr. Clay, who was a handicapped painter, and Mr. Oliver, who had Oliver Rams and others. A lot of those good people, good men, died. And Mr. Cheatham and his brother, family, and others keep the dream alive. And I say that because when you look at the number of boys in the summer months and playing ball, they're staying out of trouble. I never forget some years back, Mr. Cheatham started T-ball for the little kid. A lot of little kids didn't know what T-ball was. He took a abandoned part of Grove Park and started with T-ball. It's just a good heart. They keep saving young people. And Mr. Cheatham, I think that the city of Jackson named the park, or some parks are the parks for you and your family because of your hard work you're taking. So please keep up the good work. God bless you.
Thank you. We did purchase the Gator cargo tractor. We will present it to you all in the near future. And April the 12th, 2014, the name will be changed from Grove Park Baseball to Thomas and Walter Cheatham Baseball Park.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Cheatham. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. And we'll continue with our printed agenda. Under my name, I have one item listed for executive session, so we'll present that in executive session. We'll now go to the Honorable Darrell McClair of District 2. Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too am also concerned about contracts that we're having to vote on and that are issued by the county, and the concerns that citizens have constantly voiced concerning reviewing contracts. And so it puts you in an awkward position to have to vote on something you really don't know what you're voting on. And so being new to the board, we'd like to take an opportunity out to review all the county contracts that we're operating under, and having to abide by. There are some, though, that I do have a question regarding, and I would like to ask Mr. Joey Perkins, with EOC Director, if he would, Interim Director, if he could come to the podium to assist me with a few answers.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Perkins. In looking at the contracts, maintenance records, performance contracts, service agreements, as it relates to the communication tower sirens, and to that nature, I'm not clear at all as to exactly what contract the county has. I have probably about 6 different documents in my hand right now, and I'm not sure which one is the actual contract. I'm not sure we have several contracts, or whether it's just 2 contracts, or what it relates to as far as when it comes to the communication system and as it relates to the siren system and or maintenance and upkeep of those items. Do you or anybody on this board can advise me of that?
Go ahead, Joe.
To my knowledge, there is no contract for the sirens, to maintain the sirens. That one was canceled some years ago. There are 2 contracts for the radio communication system. One is to maintain the radio system that we pay monthly. And the other one is for, I believe it's a professional services plan for like $122,000 and some change every year for various things that aren't included in the other contract, some preventative maintenance, things of that nature. So to my knowledge, there's only 2 for the radio system and none for the siren.
Okay, so the one for the siren system has been canceled?
To my knowledge, it has.
It was.
Yeah. It was canceled. One's for the radio system and the preventive maintenance on those systems. Are you able to provide to this board on request documentation that the work is being done or has been done?
I have to request that from the contractor, and if I receive that, I can provide it to the board.
Okay. As of, before I can vote to support one way or the other, the concerns that I have is that perhaps the contracts may be there, but they're not being executed as written. And I'm not in favor of supporting a contract just to be paying people to do something if the work is not being done. I would ask of you or legal counsel as well, based off of some concerns that I receive and that I'm aware of, that documentation be provided to this board immediately regarding the proper maintenance, upkeep of all of the sirens, all of the equipment, as is stated inside of their contracts. And on the contract, it indicated that this information would be provided to Hinds County. Some of it is on a daily basis, some of the work is being done on a bi-weekly basis, some of the maintenance is done on a monthly basis, some have been assigned to a yearly base. And again, I'm asking of you if you have that. If you don't have it, then perhaps the contractors themselves may have this information. And we would like to follow up on that, either with you legally and put that in writing to them that we're requesting that information. We're hoping that we'll have a work session on the 12th of this month. I would like to see it before the work session so we can discuss it at the work session. I'm concerned about some of the things that I've seen in it. And my concern comes from the standpoint of view that some of it is a little pricey. In regards to specific things, I would say as minute as the lights on communication towers. I do understand the importance of it. I do understand the reason why and the laws that requires you to maintain and be notified concerning the lights. But at a cost of probably over I'm not sure if I have it here, but at a cost of
$2,700 a month.
To do what?
Make sure the lights are working on 3 towers.
Okay, I thought that's what I saw. And I assume that they're all working. I looked at a couple of them and I just drove by and they were blinking. And I'm not asking. They're working.
As far as we know, they are.
And so, I mean, I'm concerned about that. And at this point in time, I cannot support it based off of the fact that some things have been brought to my attention regarding the contracts. And concerned citizens have expressed a strong concern about it. I would like for that information to be provided to this board as soon as possible upon a verbal request, or we can put it in writing to them effective immediately for that information to be provided as per their contract.
I will verbally request it from the contractor and also send it in an email and we'll CC the board on that.
Okay. Are you making that into a motion?
Yes.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Mrs. Calhoun?
Let me just say, I have also received many concerns from citizens regarding the contractors.
Okay, it's been moved and properly. Supervisor Stokes?
What's the motion?
The motion is to, would you restate your motion?
We're requesting that documentation be provided to this board as it relates to the contracts that were presented. First of all, the contracts, and then documentation to support that the work has been completed as they indicated in this in their contract.
I thought, Mr. President, somewhere was stated that there's no contract for sirens.
It's not one.
There's not for sirens.
So how are we gonna ask people to give us something for sirens if there's no work? I'm talking about.
We requested the contracts, all contracts. I'm here now and I have about 6 different documents and I'm not sure which one is the contract. And this is for the sirens as well as the communication system as well as the professional service contracts that are attached to it.
Could I get clerk's office somebody to copy?
Okay, Joey, go ahead.
Again, there is no contract for sirens that I'm aware of. There are 2 for the radio system, which we
So
can't get.
we're not asking for sirens.
I'm not sure what we have. I'm asking for all contracts relating to communications, whether it be for sirens, whether it's for the communications, or whether it's for professional service, anything that operates outside of your normal maintenance scope is what I'm asking for. I don't know what the contracts are. I don't know how many there are.
Legal, can you help us in terms of, and give us a copy of what we're speaking from? Because I don't have anything up here.
As I understand the motion, and please correct me if I'm wrong about this, the motion asks for two things. One, it asks the vendor to provide any contracts that they have with the county back to the county so that the board can make sure that it's on the same page with the vendor. And secondly, I think the motion asks for any documentation that the contracts would call for, supply that documentation to Mr. Perkins and the board.
And you'll give us a copy of everything, also the contract?
Oh, absolutely. And I think Supervisor Stokes, you were asking earlier, and I said I'd do a memo about the obligations of the board to pay valid claims. I think this probably ties into that as well. And I'll speak to this in my memo. But as I understand the motion is just to ask for the contracts and any documentation that's required by the contracts, ask for that to be provided as well. Am I summarizing that correctly?
Yes. And this for communications, because there's no siren contract, right?
There is no.
Correct.
All right, now.
I think just provide me some documentation that there's no siren contract, because I have one in hand that perhaps has been canceled that was for over $4 million.
A siren contract?
Yes.
We should find minutes.
That communication for me. Siren contract was.
That's why the office is here.
Siren contract was 800,000, right at 800,000. The communications contract was right at $4 million.
Let me say this.
What is that contract? Lee, I know you've been looking at contracts. I had people not been.
Likewise, we're unsure exactly what contracts exist with respect to the communications and sirens. As I understand it, I think there's just an intent of at least the board member who's moving to clarify and understand what contracts exist. I think Supervisor Stokes, and if that would go back to once we know what the contracts are and the obligations under them, that would speak to whether we should be paying the claims or not paying the claims. So I think actually Supervisor McCord and Supervisor Stokes, your two separate questions of this morning actually merged together and will result in the appropriate resolution.
Thank you, sir.
All those in favor of? Aye. Opposed to?
No.
Motion passes. Okay, continue, please.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now go to Supervisor Calhoun, District 3.
Thank you. I have on the agenda update of the Byron Creek corridor. I'm pleased to report that we are progressing with the implementation of the Byron Creek corridor. The 18-mile corridor was divided into 5 segments, and we have acquired right-of-way acquisition for one of the segments, and that is, let me go back and say, we have acquired 100% of right-of-way acquisition for segment 2, and segment 2 connects Sywell Road to Davis Road. Connects Sywell Road and Davis Road to Parks Road, and we have begun asbestos testing, demolition, and relocating utilities on segment 2. When that work is completed, we can advertise for construction of segment 2. We have been given a deadline of June 2014. That means to us, soon thereafter, that we can unearth some dirt, have an official groundbreaking service. So we are looking at June 2014, starting construction, segment 2.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Supervisor Stokes.
Mr. President, I just have a couple of questions to look and answer. Maybe Public Works, I understand there's 5 sections, and we're going to have one that's completed in terms of trying to have the all the right of way. Is that correct? So what about the other 4?
They are diligently and aggressively acquiring right away on the rest of it.
We got 1 out of 5. And we said we could break ground to complete the whole parkway?
Segment 2, from Davis to Parks Road.
Oh. What about the whole parkway?
FHWA, Federal Highways and MDOT, allowed us to break it up into 5 sections or segments, and each segment is a standalone. So,
Have we received any more federal funds? Do we have any more state funds?
not at this time.
Do we have any municipal funds? Do we have funds to complete it? Thank you, Mr. President.
Supervisor Calhoun and Supervisor McQuaid.
Thank you. Our Public Works Director answered the question regarding the segments. The corridor was divided up into 5 segments, and the Federal Highway Administration gave Hines County the permission to move forward with construction as long as we had 100% right of way for any one given segment. So we required that for segment 2. On the northern end, we have acquired about 58% of the right of way, and we're continuing along the route corridor and acquiring the other parcels for right of way acquisition. It is not absolutely necessary that we have the entire 18-mile corridor constructed in order to initiate economic development. The corridor was designed for energy efficiency as well as to promote economic development. We have 2 key pieces to the entire 18-mile corridor. That's the northern end. Up at the northern end, we have the John Dale Williams Airport, Hines College, the aerospace industrial park. And again, because of those, the college, the industrial park, they are key in attracting and recruiting businesses along the route of the path of the corridor. On the southern end, we have businesses along in the city of Loudoun all the way up to Clinton, again, along the route of the corridor. The more businesses you attract, we can promote economic development. So it's not necessary to have the entire project completed. As a matter of fact, along the middle section of the 18-mile stretch will mainly be residents. So we are actively pursuing acquiring the rest of the right of way on the northern end and the southern end. Again, is because those 2 segments have been identified as the most essential pieces to the entire project.
Thank you,
Supervisor McQuaid.
Thank you, Supervisor Brown. Mr. Calhoun answered, stated some of the things that I was preparing to state, but just want to emphasize the fact that until Hines County make a conscious effort to do some major things, some significant things to change its future will not change. And unless we make some major investments into improving Hines County as a whole, it will not happen. 90% of the requests that have come before this board all have a dollar amount attached to it, which means we're spending money on a consistent basis. At some point in time, we've got to identify ways to increase our tax base, bring in new subdivision. And this is one of the opportunities that we have before us. The funding, nobody, for the most part, whether you say federal, state, anybody wants to contribute, continue to contribute money to something, and you have not done what you were supposed to do with the original money they gave you the first time. So we have to take the necessary steps now to move forward with the funding that has already been given to the county by the state and federal, as well as some actions we took on last week to reassign funds back to that account to move forward. So now we can hopefully stop projecting or wishing that we can break ground. Hopefully by next summer we will be breaking ground on a segment of it. And once you start that and make a commitment on that, then you can go back to the same people and request additional help or assistance, or look for different avenues for fundings at that time. And so I'm in 100% support of developing the corridor. It is a long-term project, not a short-term project. It's not an immediate fix. It is a long-term project. But if you never start the project, we guarantee it'll never finish. And so this is a major action in that direction.
Supervisor Stokes and then Supervisor Calhoun.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President Terry, you help us both, and they're part of the Hines County. They need help like gangbusters. I feel so sorry for you when we go out there and look at how they're badly resisting, and we taking money for a project that would never be completed. And we can say, oh, we did first phase, or we're gonna do second phase. The project is completed in all phases. We're talking about the United States federal government put up some money. The same federal government just shut government down. And you think that those Tea Party people gonna send money down here for that part where you absolutely sick? It's not gonna happen. I talked to the mayor of Jackson last week. They're not gonna support a vote. Now, the state of Mississippi, they haven't done it, but I don't see them giving money for it. But we're gonna have our money tied up with all the needs in this county. It's absolutely wrong that we're gonna tie up this kind of money on something that's never gonna be completed. They always talk about segment. Let's talk about completion. A project that is completed, it'll never happen. It makes no sense to be robbing people like that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Supervisor Calhoun.
Every year under the Federal Highway Trust Fund, division of their MAP 21 program, funds are being allocated to the states, to the Mississippi, to the state's transportation departments. Above and beyond their allocated amount every year, the Mississippi Department of Transportation receives extra dollars to assist local governments with high priority transportation projects. In 2014, I know some members of this board will be meeting again with our Mississippi Department of Transportation to request additional funds to support the construction of the Byron Clinton corridor. So funds are there. However, if we sit here and not aggressively pursue seeking additional dollars, then we don't get any additional funds. So I know personally that I will be about the business of not only again visiting with our congressional delegation, but also visiting with our Mississippi Department of Transportation.
Thank you very much. We'll continue our printed agenda. We'll now go to Supervisor Greer, District 4.
Thank you. The first item that I have is on the Central Mississippi Planning and Development District. The appointment of Derek Johnson as the minority representative on that board has expired. And I would like to nominate, Supervisor McWhorter to fill that spot. And so I make that in a motion.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Mr. President.
Question from Supervisor Stokes.
I thought Derek Johnson came from as a city appointment. Maybe not, I don't know. I know he was on there. Is he not a city appointment?
He was a county appointment. All right. It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes. Continue, please.
Okay. The next item that I have is I'd like to move that we reassign 3 maintenance workers to the detention center under the sheriff's direction. These 3 people would still be our responsibility maintenance, but report directly to the sheriff for the work that they need to do there at the detention center. So I make that in the form of a motion.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
been moved and properly second. Discussion?
Yes, I asked Mr. Harrington, if he'll come to the mic. And while he's coming, Mr. President, I'm concerned about this item for more than one reason. The next reason is we don't have the jail administrator. You know, we're doing all this stuff. The judge gave us directions, and we have a report from the grand jury, but we haven't got the jail administrator yet. Now, how are we moving people from one department of the county to another dealing with this jail, but no jail administrator? Suppose the jail administrator don't agree with this. Suppose it's more, but I'll hear Mr. Harrington first. I know they called us some time ago and made the same suggestion. I told him the same thing. Where's the jail administrator? Mr. Harrington.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. President, Board of Supervisors. In the request coming from Supervisor Greer, the beginning of this fiscal year, I had 5 positions eliminated from the department. 4 of those positions were assigned to the Raymond Detention Center. And they've been taken away from me now. And the current, right now that we're using, the guys that we're using now to do work in the Raymond Detention Center are not protected by the Sheriff Department. They are not protected. My guys feel hostile when they go into the environment. I have no problem with assigning positions, with y'all approving assigning positions to the Sheriff Department, but to pull those positions from the ones that were taken from me.
Mr. Harrington, early on when you called,
yes,
and you made the suggestion to send some of the maintenance over to the Sheriff's Department.
Right.
So this is nothing new, right?
This is nothing new, and those positions were taken from the beginning of this year.
Well, I think what you're saying now, you want to reclaim those positions and send those over to the jail. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, now that's my first concern. The second concern is what I stated before, is dealing with the jail administrator. You know, it's in clear language that it's stated as soon as possible. We should have this jail administrator. We haven't had the jail administrator. Don't you think the jail administrator would want to have some input on this? Would members of the board think that that's why they did this report and everything? Now, we're not going to send some people over there that's not budgeted. I think you said they're not budgeted, right?
Right.
And
I'm not talking about sending the people that's currently in my department because they're not protected, they do not feel safe. The new maintenance people that go into the jail need to go under the same certification that the deputies do. They need to be protected, they need to be able to carry tasers, pepper spray, or mace, like the deputies do, because the guys, the maintenance workers that go in the building now, they've come to me numerous times. It's like playing Russian roulette with their lives.
I'd like to ask Chief Deputy Piku to address this matter.
Okay.
About the safety of workers.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Good morning.
To my knowledge, not any maintenance person has been assaulted, harmed, had any injury. So this accusation that they're not safe is unfounded to me. I know nothing about it.
Okay. Supervisor McQuaid.
You answered part of my question as to where you wanted the employees to come from, whether it's existing or coming from the reassignment of new budgets. I also understand the fact that even though none have ever been assaulted, none of the employees have ever been assaulted, there's still a personal concern when you're not accustomed to working in that particular environment. So I do understand the concerns there. My question to Piku while he's there is that if the positions are under maintenance and assigned to the sheriff department, would that be a difficult task for you all to find people adequate to do that particular work that you know that needs to be done? A lot of times we are making decisions regarding work that we're not familiar with in an environment that we're not familiar with. So your department will probably be a little wiser in understanding who would need to fill those type of positions. Is that something that you all would be willing to address if you got the 3 positions?
If we got the 3 positions and the funding to fix the problems that exist at the detention center. But as far as security, we can provide security as we have for Nelson Electric, who we provided security for them when they come in and work. So we can make adjustments as long as the board is aware of it when we bring maintenance in there. Yes, sir.
And I agree that we do need to act as quickly as we can regarding the jail administrator, but based off of your situation you're in, some things can't wait, can't continually be put off. You need somebody in maintenance to continue to do those repairs. So.
Yes, sir. We need somebody in maintenance, and we need the funding set aside for the jail administrator. The funding hadn't been set aside for us to hire one yet.
Okay, yeah, just 1 second, let me go to Ms. Calhoun. I think then we'll come right back to you. Ms. Calhoun?
Yes, I was going to ask that question. Has the funding been allocated to the sheriff's department to hire the jail administrator? But likewise, I'm sure the sheriff's department has made this request. What are the benefits of having 3 assigned technicians to provide maintenance to the jail?
Well, those technicians will answer to the jail administrator and the warden, so we will be able to have things fixed in a timely manner that we need fixed, and we can prioritize what we need fixed, not having somebody else do that for us. So we'll be able to see a problem, a roof, a leak, or whatever, and we can then direct those people to fix that problem right then.
Okay. Mrs. Davis?
I want to address a couple of points that were brought out. Regarding funding, funding has been set aside in the budget regarding this. As we had received the grand jury report, we certainly assessed the requirements and have set aside the funding needs based on those requirements. So the funding is there for the jail administrative salary and supporting staff,
okay,
as required by the grand jury. The second item regarding the maintenance issue, I do want to inform the board there is a meeting tomorrow with the monitors for the grand jury report to discuss this issue on the processing of maintenance issues for the jail. So I wanted to make you aware that this issue is still being discussed and ironed out with the monitors in the jail, just to make sure that we're following through with our grand jury requirements.
Supervisor Stokes and Supervisor Calhoun.
Mr. President, I think there was a lot of talk being said, but I don't want to miss the issue that Mr. Harrington stated. And that issue, these are positions that no longer exist. So you got to now try to find some money to fund those 3 positions. Now, we're not talking about 3 positions that's already in his office and you're going to transfer them over to the sheriff, the salaries and everything else. And Chief Petrie, I'm hoping, I hope I'm hearing that you're saying don't just transfer the position, transfer the money with the position. Are you saying that also?
Well, I think the motion was to transfer 3 people, which would come under us, but still be paid out of Mr. Harrington's budget. But I'm saying that we also need the funding to make sure that we get the funding to fix the things that need to be fixed that these people will be working on.
So, all right, now, Mr. Harrington, is that what you're agreeing upon? Well, say it in the microphone.
No, sir. No, I'm not agreeing. What I'm saying, the maintenance division, since the last 2 years, the maintenance division has been picked out to be picked on. I've been called murder by the sheriff department. I've been called all kind of names. My guys do not feel safe working in the Raymond Detention Center. One has quit. The ones that's been assigned to the Raymond Detention Center, one has quit, and that position was taken from me. The other two, one has quit, the other one retired, and we have one deceased member that was assigned to the Raymond Detention Center. The guys that we've been sending there do not feel safe. My guys, one more thing. The other guys that's been assigned to the jail was accused of assisting an inmate on escaping. And I that person is still on suspension. The maintenance division has been picked out to be picked on with this administration. And my guys are not going to work in the Raymond Detention Center, the ones there now, because they are afraid of their lives. They're not being protected. I have letters from vendors stating that they have problems with security at the Raymond Detention Center. I have letters and emails from vendors stating issues with the security. We fix one thing one day, it's tore up the next day. The yellow line is right there. There's no consequences to the yellow line anymore. There's no consequences to that yellow line. And my guys, my maintenance gang, we just fighting a losing battle.
Okay, Mrs. Calhoun and Mr. Greer.
Yes, there was mention that the monitoring team should review the decision that this board is making. Let me just say, I think there needs to be a clear understanding as to the role of the monitoring team. The monitoring team is going to look at the situation, evaluate, observe, to make sure that everybody that's concerned, whether it's the inmates or employees, are being protected, are being secure, and that all of the maintenance issues surrounding the detention center be corrected. However, the monitoring team cannot establish policy for the board of supervisors. So let's make sure that we understand the difference between the two and establish the boundaries of the monitoring team. And again, that team cannot establish policy for county government.
Supervisor Greer.
I just want to clarify the motion. Mr. Piku hit the nail on the head, is that we will be transferring. The motion is to transfer existing employees under the direction of the sheriff. And the motion did not include Mr. Harrington's approval. So that's my motion.
Okay. Any additional statements? Mrs. Davis.
I'm not sure, and certainly with all due respect to Supervisor Greer's concern, and I know what we're trying to address, and certainly want to get there. But at one time, just as way of background, there was a time when the sheriff did request the maintenance staff, and then turned around and said that he did not want the maintenance staff. So I just want to make sure, has this been in support, has the sheriff been in support of the maintenance staff coming into the facility and being under his supervision? Because this has been on the table before, and he has, he declined.
Motion on the floor, Mr. President.
Okay. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Aye.
Opposed to?
No.
Nay. Motion passes. Okay.
What's the other vote, Mr. President?
Excuse me? It was 3-2. I voted against it, you voted against it, and the other supervisor voted for it. Okay?
I ain't gonna say anything, Mr. President.
They were voted by silence in agreement of it. Okay. Mrs. Calhoun.
I feel confident that the Sheriff's Department will provide the security for the employees as they provide security for the inmates. I just do not see the Sheriff's Department allow individuals, any individuals, to go into the detention center and move on.
Supervisor Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know we left item number 1, but my question was to Mr. Felix, that CMPDD money we have for streets, we had a match for that.
It was declared in the motion to come from the 2007 bond fund.
Okay, the match is there.
Right, and I'll be sending each of the supervisors a memo exactly explaining.
I was just asking, I talked to the man, he asked me about the match. Right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, Supervisor Greer, continue, please.
Okay, the next item that I have is just some board appointments. First one being to the Jackson Hines Library. Ms. Ann Laster, she's currently serving in that capacity. And I've gotten a letter from Ann Biddick, the chairman of the Jackson Hines Library Board of Trustees, that She is a very diligent member and has been to the last 35 of 37 meetings, so therefore I would like to reappoint her to that board.
Okay. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of? Opposed to?
Now, this is a reappointment.
It's a reappointment for the period December 2013 to December 2018.
The only thing about this one, I don't mind supporting it, is that prior term appointments issue. Because this is going to another term. And League, I know y'all looking at prior term appointments. Do y'all want to speak on it, or?
Supervisor Stokes, you are correct. We are looking at prior term appointments. The largest question that we've run across is in previous years' minutes. We don't know who was appointed at what terms. And that's been our bigger concern, not just that the appointment goes into a future term. We're still trying to sort through that. My legal advice would be you can vote to support this, those of you who want to. If we find out that the appointment is indeed improper, we will bring that back before the board. We have nothing on its face to indicate it's going to be improper.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes. Continue, please.
All right, the next appointment that I have is to the Hinds County Human Resource Agency. Giselle Champlin, who has previously served on there, her term expired in November of 2013. I would like to appoint Dr. Lori Lawson of Clinton. She is the executive director of the Four Seas in Clinton. That's the Clinton Community Christian Corporation. She has a PhD from Tulane University in social work, has been adjunct professor at Jackson State, Mississippi College, and various other schools. She's very active in the community, and her term would be December of 2013 through December of 2017.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded.
Yeah, prior
Discussion.
term, Mr. President, in the record. Same caveat, prior term.
Okay. Prior term applied.
All right.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to? Motion passes. Continue, please.
The next appointment that I have is to the Hinds Community College Board. I had the opportunity to meet with Dr. Clyde News there at the college. He speaks very highly of Brad Fountain, who is currently serving on that board. And I would like to reappoint Brad Fountain, who's been the Fountain family has been a strong supporter of Hinds Community College for many years. That appointment is a 5-year appointment running from December 2013 through December 2018.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of?
Yes.
Opposed to?
Same prior term appointments.
Prior term appointment applies. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Continue, please.
The next item I have is for executive session regarding the monitoring team.
Thank you very much. We will now go to the Honorable Mr. Kenny Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I want to thank you for being so patient that we have here. We have from fisheries to wildlife. I think we'll bring them further. Mr. President, Mr. Rich.
You will come to the podium, please.
And natural resources, that Mike, Mr. Dawson? Okay, all right. Mr. President, these divisions and the process of doing some outstanding work. I want them to be going to the meeting in my office. And it's going to affect Hinds County. And I wanted them to come, and they invited us to come. At a time when a lot of us had other obligations, to explain what their plans are and let this body know what they're going to try to do in a collapse form, not too long. Thank y'all for being here. Introduce both of yourselves. Would you please introduce yourself, please?
Thank you. Thanks for having us today. My name is Michael Rich. I'm the project leader for the Theodore Roosevelt Complex here in Mississippi, which encompasses 7 refuges in the Delta. This is Mr. Mike Dawson. He's on our planning team. We just, on the 21st of November, we just concluded a public meeting, which will give you kind of a condensed version of what we gave them. And this is a proposal in the metro area for urban refuge, urban national wildlife refuge, which we'll get into a little bit of what that means if we get this thing up and going. And what we're looking for is if people in the area want the Fish and Wildlife Service involved. Do they want us to move forward in this planning process? And that's what we are. We have some maps in the back we could have brought up with us. It shows most of the proposed area is on the Rankin side of the Pearl River. We have had some suggestions of moving the boundary, but those boundaries are just almost like a circle on the map right now. So once we get done with the process, we take all our public comments, we come back, then we'll have a more hard boundary that we can say. I mean, the eastern boundary is just an elevation line that we're going through. So
what's going to be included in this project in terms of fishing and work on the Pearl River? With the Corps of Engineers have to get involved.
Yeah, this we've got a PowerPoint presentation, but obviously it isn't going to show on the monitor up here. But here's some maps for you to look at. What this proposal is to establish an urban national wildlife refuge along this wooded floodplain that would go from the spillway at Ross Barnett Reservoir down to Lakeland Drive. And Seth, do you want to come up here and point on the map? The area, the first map that you see, you can actually see that wooded area. And for those of you who don't know what a national wildlife refuge is, there are certain protected places in the U.S. that are managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. There's over 560 refuges throughout the country. There are 15 in Mississippi. Now, urban refuges are kind of a new thing. The first national wildlife refuge was started in 1903 by Teddy Roosevelt. Urban refuges really didn't start until the 1970s. And the first three were San Francisco Bay, what's the one at Twin Cities?
Minnesota Valley.
Minnesota Valley, and Tenneco in Philadelphia. Now this Tenneco Refuge, which is now known as John Hines Refuge, has a lot of similarities to our proposal. It's within a metropolitan area. It's less than a mile from an international airport. And this refuge started with only 200 acres. Now it's 993 acres. It's got a visitor center, 10 miles of hiking trails, fishing areas, and it's all within access of public transportation. Now in 2011, this refuge, visitor visits to that refuge were over 177,000 people. And the total expenditures for recreation at that refuge was over $1.4 million. So these urban refuges bring a lot of revenue into the local area, plus it provides some jobs also.
Would it affect the lake project that's rumored to?
As we know what the one lake project is, there's no conflict. We've talked to their consultant, and it is south of this proposal.
What about the Corps of Engineers? Would they have a role in this?
See, the way this project started is MDOT in 2009 purchased about 2,700 acres, showing where the green line is.
It's the interior section of this map.
Yeah. And MDOT and Federal Highways acquired that land for a mitigation bank. Now they're not going to be the long-term steward. They're looking for somebody to manage the property. So they came to us and said, would you all be interested in it? And we've worked with MDOT before on these mitigation banks, and it's become part of the refuge. Now, you asked the Corps of Engineers. The Corps of Engineers is involved in this mitigation bank. They have to approve it, which they're in the process of doing right now. And so what our proposal is using this MDOT property as the core area, we're proposing a refuge of about 5,000 acres. And you see on that yellow line is the proposed refuge boundary. The blue area at the top is land owned by the Pearl River Water Supply District. And we've talked to them and they said, you know, they would be glad to cooperate with us on some joint management because they're looking for somebody to manage their property too. The red area is a 16th section that the Rankin County School Board owns that's leased by a hunting club. And then at the bottom, the orange area down off, that is LaFleur's Bluff State Park. So this is a proposal. We're in the process of doing a land protection plan and an environmental assessment, which will go out for public review and comment. It's still just a proposal at this stage. No final decisions have been made. And when the environmental assessment comes out, there'll be a range of alternatives.
But it'll stop at Lakeland Drive, is that correct?
Yes, it'll stop at Lakeland Drive. That's our proposal at this point. But now during this environmental assessment phase, I mean, people could recommend, well, it needs to be just the 2,700 acres, or it needs to be more than 5,000 acres. It needs to go on the other side of the Pearl River and include some of that floodplain in the Jackson area.
But this would have no effect on the One Lake project.
As we understand it now, it would not. See, the One Lake project, they have not come out with a formal proposal. You know, they're still working on it. But like I said, we've talked to their contractor, and he said that they're going to be south of Lakeland Drive. And it would have they could coexist, is what they were saying.
You're Mike Rich, right?
I'm Mike Dawson. This is Mike Rich.
Oh, you're Mike Dawson, okay, you're with the...
I live in Clinton. I'm a contractor, but I work with Fish
U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Mike, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Could y'all leave other cards? I have some cards, but members of this body might want some cards. Thank y'all so much. We have an idea now.
Okay.
And we know what to do.
I did want to answer your question you asked earlier, what kind of activities? On a refuge, we try to have 6 activities we try to allow all the time, which is hunting, fishing, photography, observation, interpretation, and education.
Free fish?
All wildlife.
Is it free fish?
It's free fish. That's
okay. All right, because a lot of times they start free, and next thing they start charging. But thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you very much. And